You know, a lot of people say that hiking the PCT is the easiest of all the Triple Crown trails. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not like that. If you think hiking the PCT is going to be all ponies and rainbows, think again. It's not. Hey, I'm Jabba, the real hiking Viking. I'm a Triple Crown thru-hiker. I've been backpacking since 2013, almost every single year, to the tune of over 25,000 miles. I've lost count, but I'm here to tell you, I'm the expert on the Pacific Crest Trail. Today, we're going to talk about my 10 harsh truths of hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. These truths are all the things that people don't want to admit about hiking the PCT. The first thing I want to talk about is the desert. The desert will break your spirit. 700 miles until you get to the Sierra, and all you're doing is thinking about the Sierra. But really, you got to go through the lowest of the lows and through snow early on, and you're not ready for half of it at all. And it's monotonous, it's painful, it's where your feet swell every day, water is scarce. The desert, it will break your spirit if you're not prepared to have that kind of a time in the desert before getting to the Sierra. The desert being 700 miles, it's like its own little thru hike within a massive thru hike. So mentally, to get through that before you even get to some of the most glorious parts of the trail, it can be very difficult. One of my times hiking in the desert on the PCT, I was going over San Jacinto, and on the north end of that mountain, and you're descending into the desert, it's like, I think you drop like 4,000 feet or something like that, maybe even more. But it went from like snow at the top to 120 degrees at the bottom, and you're flush out of water, and all you're doing is thinking about that watering fountain at the bottom where it's just baking you. There's no shade anywhere. And if you're not prepared for that, it's going to be a long hike to get back to more water. So before you hit the desert on the PCT, just make sure you have a great frame of understanding of what it's going to take for you to get through the desert first and foremost before you get the next 2,000 miles under your belt. So as you're preparing to hike the PCT, just realize that the mental aspect of the desert in the first 700 miles is very difficult before you get to hike the last 2,000 miles of that trail. And remember, the desert does not care about your Instagram feed. Next up, before we get any further, I just want to make it clear that most of you watching this, as you're preparing to hike the PCT, you're probably not going to finish. I'm sorry to say it, stats don't lie. Less than 25% of people who start the Pacific Crest Trail end up finishing. I know that sounds crazy, but you have to be prepared for the harsh reality. I mean, heck, my first 2 times hiking the PCT, I didn't finish for various reasons. There's a number of reasons that would keep anyone from finishing any thru hike, but the PCT, less than 25%. So just be realistic about your odds going into this. All right. And whatever, like my Instagram feed, don't just look at it and be like, man, this is going to be great. Half the time I'm very frustrated by how I feel, my body hurts. All right. So it's just like something's going to come up. It's going to make it difficult, and you're going to want to think about quitting all the time. But just remember, if you don't make it to the end, as I haven't many times, it doesn't invalidate any aspect of what you've done. All of my hikes have shaped how I feel about thru hiking every single year, whether I'm complete the trail or don't complete the trail. You're still allowed to have a good time, and you're still allowed to call it whenever you decide to. Next up, your body is going to rebel against you. As I was just saying, all right, less than 25% of people don't finish. A lot of that is pain and injury related, but I'm not just talking about like pain from like sore muscles. I'm talking like toenails falling off. I'm talking about like waterborne illnesses like giardia. I'm talking norovirus that you get from all kinds of other dirty hikers. I'm talking toenails falling off. I'm talking about getting infections. I'm talking about sepsis. I'm talking about dog bites from random places. Like any number of things is gonna like either injure you, make you feel pain, make your body break physically, literally, like stress fractures, rolled ankles, broken bones, you name it, it can happen out there. So you might have to like factor that in, whether it's your budget or your timeline. All those things can happen. Your body is going to rebel against you. It is a given, depending on how old you are especially, okay? And I'm not saying these things to scare you. They shouldn't scare you. You know, all the best things in life come through persevering, all right? So persevering through a thru hike, it makes you feel like you've accomplished something great. And persevering through pain is no different, all right? So make sure you realize that this is not gonna be easy, and you will have to fight through pain. And I'm not trying to doom and gloom you out of hiking the PCT or any other hike for that matter, but just know that it's coming. I experienced pain on every single one of my thru hikes. Well, the PCT has gotten so popular that what you think is about to be a wilderness expedition is more likely to be a social experiment, okay? Just like the AT, when I first started in 2013, I thought I was going to be hiking the wilderness all by myself for half the time. And the way it really works out is you form clusters and you form bubbles, and these people are going to be ebbing and flowing throughout not just your day, but maybe your morning, and you'll see them in town, and you all leave about the same time, and you'll be hitchhiking around each other, and you'll, before you know it, even if you didn't want a tramway, you're going to have a tramway. Like, it's just going to factor in that way that the amount of people that are going to be on this trail, it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to see lots of people, especially early on. I mean, the majority of people end up quitting in that first quarter of the entire PCT. Basically, the Sierra Nevada. When you get to the Sierra Nevada, that's when things start blowing up and people go in all different directions, getting off trail, flipping up, whatever. But 700 miles, there's just going to be so many people, and it's going to be fun. Even if you didn't want to have a social experience, you will have fun doing that. You'll learn that maybe that was the most fun you thought you wouldn't have, you're actually going to have within that social side of things. I mean, the trail brings in all different types from all walks of life who have this idea that they're going to hike the PCT. You're going to have people that are already experienced thru-hikers. You're going to have people that are brand new, as green as could be. You're going to have people that are not but skin and bones. You're going to have people that are, big like me. And everyone's just going to have this idea of starting at the same time as you. And before you know it, all these different people from all these walks of life, you're all going to form into this conga line almost. Not exactly, but in some cases, kind of. So if you're going into this not trying to have a social experience, just know that you're gonna have to take steps to try and actively have that solo kind of hike, or you're just gonna have to accept the fact that you're gonna be around a lot of people. So be mindful of your social battery and take care of yourself in however ways you need to with regard to protecting that solo nature type of hike. So depending on when you start your hike, a lot of people who are brand new into thru hiking, if this is your first thru hike, you want to start as early as possible. At least that's the mindset for a lot of people, because you're like, oh, I don't want to have to do big mile days right away. Well, the slower you go, the more money you're going to spend essentially. And especially the earlier you start, you might find yourself experiencing, late snow or, snow on tops of mountains. I mean, truly on day 2 or 3, when you get to Mount Laguna, you could be in a snowstorm. And before you know it, you're taking multiple zeros. And by the time you get past San Jacinto, you've taken a week or two's worth of zeros in the first few hundred miles, okay? When you are thinking about getting to the Sierra, but by the time you get through that first 700 miles through to the Sierra, you've blown through half your budget and you're not even a quarter of the way through your hike. It's a problem. So you need to really be mindful of when you start, what your pace is going to be, how much money you plan on blowing through, because that money you're going to be spending in town is going to just exponentially add up. And before you know it, you're going to be like, how am I supposed to finish my thru hike if I'm only averaging 15 miles a day, 12 miles a day with all these zeros, and I haven't really gotten anywhere, and I still have the Sierra in front of me, and heck, maybe you even have to flip up because the snow is too great in the Sierra, then you're renting a car or you're flying north, and it just changes the dynamics of how you're spending your money. And it's just, a lot of people don't realize how expensive this thru hiking world can be when you really start factoring in the nitty gritty of your expenses. So be responsible with your money when you're out there. And I know that it gets hard when you're in town with all these friends you've made and you want to go out and you want to eat and you want to have a couple of drinks, but you really just need to make sure that that money that you did save is going to the appropriate functional use to complete your thru hike. All right. And make sure you're saving up enough before you get there. Next, you're gonna obsess about food all the time. Before we get into the food you're gonna be eating on the trail, let me just quickly talk about beforehand, plan-wise. Some people think it's gonna be extremely helpful to plan out all your food in advance and make all these resupply boxes and ship them out to yourself. And I've done both ways. I've done the pre-planning and then I've done the winging it, all right? And let me just go ahead and tell you, the pre-planning sounds good in theory until you're out there on trail and you're eating the same food, resupply after resupply after resupply. Yes, you're likely going to be able to give yourself a lot more nutritious food and maybe save some money in the long haul, but it's kind of negligible. By the time you get out there and you have your 5th box of food, you're already trying to give it away to other hikers. All right, so if you're gonna plan your food out in advance, just have a ton of variety. And I mean a ton of variety. And make sure it's not just dry and not just nutritious. You're gonna want a lot of junk food. And I'm not saying you should have junk food. I'm just telling you what you're gonna wanna have out there, all right? Because when you're on trail, all you're thinking about are the things you don't have while you're on trail. If you don't have the things your brain is just obsessing over, like whether it's candy or whether it's like meat or like chips, or you're just make sure that you give yourself the things you want when you're on trail, okay? Because all the time out there, from break to break, you're just thinking about food because you're just constantly hungry and you're just constantly wanting to eat. It's very important. Your food is your lifeline out there. And just remember, if you're eating just healthy stuff on trail, and I'm not saying you're going to, but if you are, you're always going to get to town and eat that burger, have that milkshake, whatever it is, pie or pizza. So if you can supplement that with either eating healthier on trail or eating healthier off trail, try and do that somewhere. Get a salad in town to pair with whatever junk food you're eating. Just try and get nutrition, because some people end up getting malnourished in ways, and that ends up being a problem. And just remember, whatever you're dreaming about on trail for when you get to town to eat off trail, try and supplement healthy stuff when you can, because if you're just eating junk food, you're likely going to get malnourished in ways, and actually malnourishment can lead to injury or just like bad moods, or like, I don't know, you just aren't having as good of a time out there. Eating healthy somewhere along the way in town can be very helpful, because that's where you can get fresh food like fruits and vegetables and salads. And just make sure if you're eating healthier on trail, then you can have your junk food off trail. But if you're eating healthier in town, then you can have your junk food on trail. Just kind of like mix it up enough that you're getting some nutrition somewhere at some point. Next up, town days are not the vacation you think they're going to be. If you do a full 0 into town, sometimes that entire 0 is just spent doing all of your chores to be able to get back on trail. Like, you're gonna want to have downtime where you're doing nothing and thinking about nothing and just laying there being lazy because your body's trying to recover from all the things you were just physically doing to it in the last stretch. But you might have to do all your laundry, you might have to do gear repair, you might have to go see a doctor, you're gonna have to go buy your food, you're gonna have to go eat, you might have to just like see friends and family that came to visit you. All these things take up precious hours in the day, and before you know it, those hours add up, and like it's dark, you're sleepy, you're tired, and maybe you didn't even get all the things done you wanted to get done, and maybe you don't even have a full 0. All right, so your time in town is so precious. It's usually pretty valuable when you're out on trail. And I know I do this every single time. I do what's called a death march into town, so I can give myself the best Nero possible. So I can like check into my hotel, and maybe I do that Nero and get all my chores done that day. And then maybe that planned 0 becomes an actual 0 for you, all right? A lot of people don't think like that. They're just thinking like they want to get in and out of town. But honestly, for me, town really recharges my batteries physically and mentally, that I'm able to get back out there and continue to have a lot of fun on my hike. And spending time in town with your friends that you have out on trail, that's where a lot of your memories are made, to be honest with you. When I'm out on trail, I'm hiking solo. When I'm in town, I'm with people. And those are two different kinds of ways that I enjoy the trail. I like hiking solo, but I like being in town with people. And listen, I am maybe one of the biggest culprits of the double 0. I've even, on the PCT last year, I've taken the 000. The circumstances for that one were smoke and fire related, but I was all too happy to take another 0. The 000 is infamous for like, the vortex of all the hikers that are like, one more 0. And you're never really gonna regret it unless you're out of money. Next up, fire closures don't give a crap about your plans. You can train for years, you can plan for years, you can have the perfect plan in theory, on paper, all nice and pretty. But let me tell you, my first 2 thru hikes on the Pacific Crest Trail were both failures for fire reasons. And I had been coming from the East Coast where fires were not an issue, and I had no clue that the West had all these fires going all day, every year, top to bottom. It doesn't matter what time of year, it doesn't matter where on the trail you are, these fires can happen at any point in time, and they can derail your idea of a thru hike. You have to start like reassessing what you think is a thru hike out there. Because when the closure happens, it can be dangerous. And some people want to think, oh, I'm going to hike through illegally. And like, that is the worst idea possible. Or you're going to road walk 200 miles around it. That's like I can't imagine a less fun thing than road walking 200 miles to get around a fire. Just think outside the box and think about how you want to spend your time out there. And I get it, you want to keep your footsteps connected and you want to keep this idea of a pure through hike, but sometimes Mother Nature has other plans and you just got to listen to her and think differently about what your idea of a through hike can be. You have got to be flexible or you're going to have a bad time. All right, another harsh truth about hiking the PCT is the mental game can be brutal. After about the first month or so, your body physically is going to adapt to doing everything you're doing day in and day out. You're gonna get stronger, the climbs will get easier if you're fed properly. And you know, it's really just going to start to become monotonous. It's gonna become lonely, it's gonna become boring to some degree. It's still gonna be beautiful, but that mental aspect of doing the 20-mile day every day, getting up at 6 a.m. every day, digging your cat hole every day, eating the same crap every day, it's gonna get hard to deal with every single day. And if you don't discover ways to have fun with it or to manage it or to cope along with it, it can break you. A lot of people, that is the number one reason they end up quitting on their through hike, is because the mental game was harder than any other aspect of it. The robotic-like nature of through hiking is what can be most difficult, especially if you're really pushing yourself. You're trying to do big mile days to get done faster, to get to town quicker. I can really, if you're physically drained, you're going to get more mentally drained way easier, way quicker. And that's typically when the mental side of you, paired with the physical side of you, is telling you to take a breather, slow it down, maybe try something different, take a zero, do something that's not through hiking related. Like some people get off trail and go and do something that's not backpacking related at all. I've gotten off trail for family vacations. I've gone to the beach. I've done 4th of July in Lake Tahoe. Anything you can do to maybe just change it up a little bit so that it just doesn't seem so monotonous all the time. That could really help you be successful moving forward on the trail. The trail changes you, but maybe not how you expected. Some people have this idea that they're gonna have this profound experience that's gonna change them for the rest of their lives. And you might, but it might not be quite how you envisioned it. It's not like you're gonna be more wise. It's not like you're gonna have all these totally changing your life types of moments on the trail where you're like, well, this is what I'm gonna do now for the rest of my life, one way or the other. For me personally, I that profound feeling did happen, but it just meant that I was just going to keep through hiking. I didn't go back to the real world, so to speak, and do something totally different in my life. I just found out that I like being outside more. And maybe that's all it has to be, is maybe you just need to spend more time outside, because that's really why you went and did this to begin with, was to unplug from society a little bit, get away from our devices, our computers, our phones, the daily grind of the rat race and all that kind of stuff. And maybe these profound moments we think we have just need to be profound enough to know that we should be outside more. That idea of a life-changing moment on trail might truly never come. So you just kind of have to listen to yourself and how you're feeling in these smaller moments on trail and figure out how to apply that feeling into your everyday life when you get off trail. All right, so those are 10 harsh truths of the Pacific Crest Trail. They might not be the ultimate top 10. You might have different ones. If you got any other ones you'd like to add, please hit them in the comments. And if you're through hiking the PCT this year and you want to be a Trek blogger, check the description. I'll leave a link and you can apply. All right, gang, don't forget to like and subscribe, and just remember to get out there. I'm Jabba, the Real Hiking Viking. Take it easy.